going to, before we convene the meeting, we have 10 minutes to start with a couple of special presentations before we actually convene the meeting. So first, I guess we have Megan Ott, Esquire, Goring, Rudder, and
Did I say that right?
It's close enough. We just go by JRB law, it's a lot easier.
Okay.
Jeremy Lott.
Yep.
A little conversation about blight.
Are you ready for it?
Yes.
I'm happy
It's
to do
scary
it.
as you see it on the streets that you wouldn't think are legal. You know what I mean? Streets in
Good
Upper
evening.
St.
How are
Clair,
you
Upper
doing?
St.
Great.
Good. My name is Megan Ott. I'm an attorney. Gary Ryder,
There's
just
still something
hand that up if you don't mind.
wrong.
And as a lawyer, I do a couple of different things. I serve as a solicitor, so I know that your time is precious, and the exercises that you go through in executive session and otherwise are a challenge. I'm here to talk to you about blight. Connect, which is an organization to which you belong, put out an RFP for special counsel services to help. They're looking for a lawyer to help member communities with blight, and I responded to that and went through a vetting process and stand in front of you, at least with some of the blessing and the backing of Connect as an organization. I've been practicing law for about 10 years. I started off with Mike Adams in West Mifflin when he started his own law firm. That was my first foray into municipal law, and it didn't scare me away.
Condolences to you.
No, and I'm still here and I'm still doing it. And what's interesting on the blight front is that, so I started just doing some zoning stuff with Mike, with the West Mifflin Zoning Hearing Board. Over time, that became West Mifflin Borough. And went downtown and joined Gary Ryder and Beam, but there, Gary Ryder and Beam represents municipalities, school districts, and we do some delinquent tax collection. And so I kind of did a tour of duty, I guess, in a way, with each of those groups. And it's interesting, but there is an integration from each of those. And I kind of, sure, and I kind of picked up some tools of the trade from each of those different exercises, and that's what I use first and foremost when I deal with blight. So I'm going to show you a couple different ways that I go about doing it. Your manager provided to me your blight list, and the fact that you even have a blight list to start with, a hit list, is a roadmap. I'll say that you are way above the curve, way in front of the curve, compared to a lot of communities. A lot of communities identify the fact that they have challenges, they have blighted properties, and but from there, they're not exactly sure what to do with them. So with your blight list, I thought, all right, well you have one, so let me see what we can do with it. This is one of the first ones on the list. I don't know anything other than what I can find in the public records. And so the first thing I did is I saw that it's a residential property, it's a two-family structure. You've identified it, and at least on the assessment website, it looks semi-functional. The first thing I do is go to the assessment website and I identify whether or not there are any delinquent taxes, at least for county purposes, because that's kind of a quick reference for me. And I saw that I don't believe that there were any for that property. There weren't many. I've handed out all my copies now. So from there, I thought, okay, well, let me look at the Department of Court Records website. From there, I could see that you have the Borough of Munhall has a delinquent tax action on this property. It's currently a default judgment phase, which means you've done all the work that you really need to do, and you're in a position to file a sheriff's sale if you wanted to do that. And I think I could also see that there was a mortgage foreclosure, and it looks like that mortgage foreclosure actually might beat you to the punch, and you might end up with the transferred property sooner than later, not because of an action that you had to take, but because of what a third party did. Good news on that property is that you may see in a couple months' time a different owner, just by virtue of that mortgage foreclosure process. In the meantime, my question to you, when I look at that, my question to you, if we work on this, would be, all right, do you have a sense that this property is currently occupied at all? Are there tenants? If there are tenants, and those tenants are paying rent, there's a law that allows you to garnish rents from tenants rather than have, I mean, up to the amount of delinquent taxes or fiscal claims that are owed. So that would be something that we would talk about, whether or not I don't know if there's, it's blight can come in a couple of different flavors, and it can come in the form of delinquent taxes, condition, safety.
I have a question.
Yeah,
I'd like to start over. You're with, what group are you with?
I'm with Gary Rudder and Dean.
And you're also with?
I am the appointed
Connect.
council of
Connect.
Connect, yeah.
Connect
was a neighboring community.
And how are we a member of Connect?
By dues.
And is Connect involved with the COG?
No.
So this is a separate group from the COG?
Yes.
Calling to useless.
And then,
Mr. Ballas and Mr. Bonadier are our delegates to Connect.
okay, great. Good.
Okay,
I wasn't sure how we
No,
were
I'm
connected,
sorry.
and so,
that gives you a little bit more knowledge.
yes, it does.
And I'm new to
So
Connect too. in
you're
that
working
way.
for us with our blighted property?
I am here for you to
Awesome.
hire if you are
Working with
interested.
all of Connect, all the municipalities, which there are 38.
Believe me, and I think that
37?
grows from time to time, but
I thought we got one more.
Forest Hills.
Yeah,
Somebody
38.
making, a question I have for you, you talked about the mortgage foreclosure, as it's listed on here, it says discontinued. Discontinued, does it mean it didn't happen?
it means that it didn't have to kind of take effect.
And the issue with that, and the issue that we all have is, the banks are sending out foreclosure notices, removing people, not following through, not taking ownership, so that everything accrues in the name of the person who was last on there. And we need to change Pennsylvania state law so that the banks can't do that, and the legislature doesn't want to fight the banks.
Right. So and I agree with you entirely, and there are a couple things that municipalities are doing about that. And I'll also say, so the first mortgage foreclosure that you see on that docket sheet, that's a closed one. The second one is actually a live one. It starts with the GD, I think 10. That one actually is live, and it looks like in March of 2015 that they actually issued recipe for, to sell it through mortgage foreclosure. It doesn't mean that it will in fact get to the end, but it is live. What can you do about bank-owned vacant properties? There's some communities that have passed ordinances that require owners of vacant properties or mortgage companies who are holding but haven't hold equitable title but haven't reported the title. But that's what they do, thinking that that will save them somehow. That they have to register with you, they have to pay some sort of fee in order to, and that they have an obligation. And that does a couple of different things. I mean, just by only going that far, one, you have a person or an agent that they have identified for you to reach out to in case they don't cut the grass, or in case you have criminal problems and your police chief is trying to find someone who's supposed to be responsible for the property. And then from there, you can go a little bit further and require that the property would be brought up to code, or that you won't issue permits to them. I mean, that's the integration with Act 90. Act 90 was a blight law that was passed a couple of years ago and updated probably about a year and a half ago. And permit denial is one of the powers under that statute. I haven't seen it stretch much further than that, so there's some mechanics that you can employ. If nothing else, it's never, those banks have a really hard time really hiding, because you can always find the mortgage foreclosure on the public docket, so at least you know who the bank is that should own it.
Right,
And
and then
from-
you can call and get the runaround for months.
You
trying
can
to
get the
this done.
runaround. I've been more successful with some banks than others, to be honest. And it's more in like the cutting the grass, or there's an above ground pool that's like half filled and more filled with mosquitoes than anything else in the backyard. I mean, I've had some success with certain banks in getting them at least to come out, secure the building, cut the grass maybe a couple times during the course of the summer, and during the pool. So, I mean, sometimes you have luck with those groups and sometimes you don't. I've had a little bit of success also with getting some of those banks to take down dangerous structures. I've had a couple communities, most recently in Avalon, which is not a special blight council, but it's one where I serve as solicitor, but there had been a fire about a year and a half ago, and the owner said, we had the fire escrow money, they were gonna clean it up, they're gonna clean it up. The fire escrow money, of course, wasn't quite enough, and it was like $6,000, and it cost maybe 10 to 12 to actually take down those houses. So ultimately, I mean, I found somebody in the bank, and a lot of those banks do have departments that are supposed to be responsible for property maintenance of structures. So if you find the right person, and you send a couple well-worded threatening legal letters, sometimes honestly, they'll get you the traction. Just to get, that doesn't solve the ultimate issue, you still then have a vacant lot then. So it is a process, it's not a never-ending process, but.
As a group, we've had convened a couple of meetings on blight, and we need to get back to it this year. But there are a lot of structures that are viable, and we want to keep them on the books.
Yeah.
And I think our biggest challenge is how do we get control of that property so that somebody who wants to invest in it can, and can have ownership. And that, Pennsylvania statutes seem to be very cumbersome as far as getting control of this property before it's dilapidated.
Right.
Our code enforcement guy's constantly going up, and there's viable structures, but a year later, the pipes are gone, the windows are broken, then it's not viable, and then we know it's gonna come off the tax roll.
So you have maybe a couple of year window in those cases where your efforts in terms of blight are probably the most effective.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Rather than get to a point where you're trying to tear it down. If there's some grant money to that, yeah, but that's.
We'd rather rehab them or have somebody rehab them.
Absolutely.
We're not in the business to do, the
Yeah.
borough doesn't do that, but we'd like to get it into the hands of the people who are able to do that for a good price. So, someone's not gonna buy a property for $30,000 that's worth $10,000.
Right. No, it's.
So, like Dan said, the laws, they're prohibited.
Well, it's funny, even just, I think I looked at maybe the first four on your abandoned properties and lots list. The first one was 5390 East 9th Street, I don't know if that's the one in front of me.
Yeah, that's the one we have, 538.
And it's funny, 538 is right across the street, and also on the list. Also, when I looked at that one, I think that one had virtually no delinquent, so someone is paying the taxes on that one. There was a mortgage foreclosure going for that one as well. And I think there was a delinquent municipal claim action for trash from a couple of years ago, the delinquency was like $1,000. And it looks like it either it got stalled or it was successful in getting the $1,000, maybe it just wasn't satisfied. I don't know which one it was, but.
Yeah, what we have, gentlemen, is
They're right
that
across.
we have, I did share with Megan, we have roughly 95 vacant, blighted, abandoned structures. Actually, we have about 135. Some are taken off the list because there may be some buyers for those, and some have been already up for share sale, but we do have a problem. Our solicitor is certainly well aware of Megan coming to give us a presentation. The question is, what are we going to do? In concert with 37 other neighboring municipalities that surround Pittsburgh, perhaps there's economy of scale. We contract with a law firm that does this for a living. Can you get into costs a little bit?
Yeah, and I think it depends on what you want, what you need, what's your budget. I set it up at these meetings, I know that when you're fighting between, okay, do we pay a solicitor more to do some work over here, or do we pay the street? I know that is a dynamic.
We're not paving streets for this year.
Okay, so we're not paving streets, or hiring another part-time police officer to address one of your needs. You seem to have, the fact that you have your own internal code enforcement officer, you have a list ready, you do actively, or to some degree, collect delinquent taxes. You have I'll say that you have the building blocks in place, I think, to do something meaningful in this area, and something that would require less solicitor help. I think what I need to find out from you is whether or not.
Could we have one meeting back here, gentlemen? If you guys want to chat, go out in the hall.
What I need the feedback that I would be looking for you is how self-sufficient are you, and do you think is it a matter of, 'cause I could go through your top 20, I could go through and help you identify whatever, you could attack this problem all at once, which is kind of a daunting thing. You could break this down into quadrants or neighborhoods, or, key strategic areas that you think would have the highest impact or bang for your buck in terms of really chasing blight, and then build from there. The scope of the program, and the scope of what you would need from me is completely at your discretion. I have some, just by going through, I probably spent about 20-25 minutes legitimately on 4 or 5 properties, and would have at least something of a game plan or feedback to give you about those five properties.
Megan, I think what would fit well for us is, we were matching up, we wanted to see what the potential for the purchasers was of specific homes on the list. And we were trying to gauge effective demand.
Right.
And so typically, they wanted, the best of what was on the list.
The best of the worst.
The best of the worst, so to speak. And those are the ones that we wanted to act on, because there was effective demand to fix the home and put it back on the tax rolls. And we could identify those and match them up with buyers.
Okay.
And I think with a little bit of guidance with you at our Blight Committee meeting,
Right.
we could turn those ideas into actions.
And so what, in a lot of that, if you decide to use the delinquent tax process to drive a lot of that change in ownership, that's actually not gonna require any heavy lifting on my part. That's going to be an effort with your
Garrett
delinquent.
Janko. And we had
Exactly.
him and Donnie Fetzko at one of the meetings,
Yeah.
and so we were trying to work in
It's as
concert.
I say, it's an integration of kind of some of these different spheres that you have, and different things that you have going on. In those delinquent tax cases, if the barrier or the reason why something hasn't been exposed to sheriff's sale yet is either, one, because you didn't know if you exposed it, if you'd have a buyer, because you don't wanna go through the exercise, because there's a cost.
And we don't wanna own it.
Yeah.
You don't wanna own it, you're not about to go and say, bid for yourself and take a credit bid. And 3, and there's usually, and the cost to expose something to sheriff's sale is usually about $3,500. That's the sheriff's cost. And I would think most delinquent tax collectors kind of pass that on to the municipality on the front side. So you wanna have some sort of assurance. What I've seen done then is to have an interested purchaser agreement. So particularly for these multifamily structures or for a house, it doesn't work so well for side yards, but we'd help your delinquent tax collector and make sure that they have an interested purchaser agreement. Whoever you've matched up to one of these properties, if there's a delinquency and an action going, they'd sign it, and what they'd say is, all right, here are the hard costs associated with you bring this lawsuit, bring the sheriff's sale action. The interested party, the person that you've identified, would put that money up. And again, something has to be worth about $5,000. Again, it's something that could be rentable, that could be livable. $5,000 is a pretty good deal to buy something at sheriff's sale. What that said, your delinquent tax collector or the delinquent tax collector and legal people, they hold that money in escrow. That's the assurance that they'll take it to sheriff's sale. And then at the sheriff's sale, usually the delinquent tax collector hands that $5,000 over to the bidder. They're required to bid. They're required to bid whatever the minimum bid is. And if they get it, great. If they don't get it, it's because someone else outbid them, and it's gone up from there. They haven't lost anything other than the use of the money for that time period. You haven't paid anything out of pocket, and you have a new owner in that property. Now, you don't have complete control over who buys something at sheriff's sale, which is a concern sometimes on the part of municipalities. But as a starting proposition, it has to be better than the person who hasn't been taking care of it, and someone has at least been active enough that they took these actions, and then you watch them and make sure that they do what you need them to do on the property maintenance code side and the zoning side, the landlord tenant side. So if that is, I mean, if that's kind of, I mean, if that's one vehicle, I mean, there are other more exotic vehicles, to be honest, but the delinquent tax one is it's one of the best. It's one of the best, most predictable and fastest to get clean title, because someone on the other side of this transaction doesn't wanna go through the effort if there isn't some sort of certainty that what they're buying, someone could come knocking, next week and say, no, this is my house, and, get out. Even investors wanna know, title insurance companies wanna know that there's some certainty. So we definitely do that, and that isn't particularly time intensive, legal intensive on my part. It might just be helping, helping to coordinate something.
You said that's the fastest. What's the average time? What are we talking
For
about?
a sheriff's sale?
Yes.
It depends, so if, like, the two that were on this list that I looked at so the 538 and the 539, 9th Street, for example. 9th Avenue, sorry, they both, there's a default judgment sitting out there in the name of the borough on both of those. So, to be honest, the next step, the next legal step, if these people hadn't paid or they're not on a consistent payment plan, would be to list it for sheriff's sale. The lead time is about 4 months to get it from default judgment to up on the auction block. The advertisement period for a sheriff's sale is about 3 months.
And if it doesn't go the first time, there's a second and a third, from what I understand.
And that can be whatever the municipality directs. In order, the typical process would be the first time it's exposed at sheriff's sale, it's at the upset price, which means all the taxes, all the municipal claims, it's everything. Depending on what that number is, it may or may not sell. Which is why, actively pursuing this, if there's only a couple of years, it very well could go for the upset price. If there's a bunch of years, or if there's, 10 years of school taxes on something, it probably won't sell, at the upset price. In order to sell it for anything less than the upset price, you have to get an order of court. So typically, you go back, to a judge, you postpone the sheriff's sale for 3 months, get an order saying that you could sell it for less than all the taxes. If it's just costs and fees, if the order would say that, and then when it's exposed the next time, it'd be something less. You can go in, if it's a targeted blighted property that you wanna strike some different deal with, meaning that you're comfortable for a certain set of properties or any individual property starting the sheriff's sale, the first time it goes up for sheriff's sale, costs and, a minimum bid of costs and fees, as a legal matter, you don't have to go through 2 or 3 sales. It's a good practice just to you're essentially testing the market by exposing it first for everything and then for something less than that. But you can go into it with an order saying the first time you expose it, you can sell it for a specific number. It could be 10,000. It could be, costs and fees. It could be something else. So it is open-ended that way.
Now, the borough, do we get any of this money? I know you said the 3,500 goes to the sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is there any money that we, recoup on this? Crumbs, like pennies on the dollar for taxes,
I would say it depends, yeah.
We could then.
You could, so that's what you give up by either directing or authorizing, a sheriff's sale that begins at costs and fees only. Because that's the floor down here. Everything above that is a piece of taxes or municipal claims.
Okay.
But for every dollar, you're probably getting 25 cents. If there are school taxes, they probably get 50. And
But it's still worth our while because it costs 10 to 12, 15,000 to tear a house down.
Yeah,
We got
and
a
again,
vacant lot there.
it's the long-range impact
Right,
of
exactly.
having it back on the tax rolls and not having holes on streets.
I agree,
So,
100%, yeah.
We have about $25,000 budgeted for blighted properties right now in our budget.
Okay.
If we initiate a sheriff's sale and put the money up front ourselves,
Mhm.
say $3,500 with $5,000, we initiate 5 properties. When it goes to sheriff's sale and someone buys it at not the upset price, whatever that cost and fees
You
is,
get that back.
if we initiate it,
Yeah.
we get the money back.
You get the-
Right.
So, we have that money sitting there.
Right.
We've not initiated any yet. That was our plan to do such a
Mhm.
thing. So what would your fee be to direct us in doing that?
So I charge $175 an hour. So, you know, and I would do my best to help you structure that or maximize that in whatever way was effective, whether that's, you know, and honestly, it might be, you know, a couple hour meeting with you, your manager, and your delinquent tax, you know, collector.
Well, they have a bunch that are ready to go, and
And
they
it-
can
And that's what.
say, we have
yeah.
some, we started the process, and it's not gonna take 4 months, it could take 30 days, because they're ready to go.
And their
If we
fees are
could-
tied up, I mean, when they do it, I mean, when they do the sheriff's sale stuff, their fees are tied, I mean, those are
Right into
included in
the
the
sale.
cost, right, and
Right.
so that's not an out-of-pocket
Right.
cost to you, and they only get their I mean, they'll get their fees when they take it to sale, so they're probably really interested in you saying yes, to doing that.
I think what we should do
Yeah, we
is use her as a facilitator when we have these buyers that come along. And her and Bob can facilitate,
Right.
okay, what's ready to go, what can go fast? Are you willing to sign the letter of intent to cover the cost so that we don't have to encumber necessarily our money? But where we don't have specific buyers, we can use our money and get double the action.
That last meeting we had,
You know-
we could have used her probably, because there was a lot of legal questions that we
Right.
really had.
I was thinking they want to test of 4 or 5 properties and see how it goes from there, you know.
I think
That'll lead us in
logistically,
the next year, we can do more.
I think logistically, and correct me if I'm wrong, Megan, your firm is actually in contract with Aetna on behalf of all the municipalities?
I think that was the initial idea, and
That was the initial,
ultimately,
yeah.
and they pivoted a little bit, and it's probably for good reason. It's so.
I just wanted to educate them.
Yeah, so if you wanted me to help you in some way, it would, an appropriate way to do that would be a motion to retain me. I have a sample fee agreement letter, and that way, it's important because then there's attorney-client privilege between the Borough of Munhall and myself and my firm. Otherwise, if I was outsourced by Aetna, but Aetna was my true client, I would be able to, it would be really difficult.
So that's not part of the mix, okay, good.
No.
Because I didn't want to deal with Mary Ellen.
Well, I don't want to cut you short, but
Yeah,
I
that's
think,
fine. I know you have a lot
I
of
think
work.
we have the gist of what's going on and what we need to do.
Okay.
Thank you for your
No, thank
coming.
you
Yes,
for
thank
having
you
me.
very much.
And I look forward to doing whatever you.
We'll be in contact with you, Megan, thank you for the time and the short notice, appreciate it.
Do you want to talk to Mike Adams anymore?
I ran into Mike on the street.
That's why I see her once, I'm friends with him.
Maybe, I would say maybe.
Tell him I
I'm
said
not-
hello if you see him.
I will definitely do so, he's a good
Yeah,
man,
he's a
so.
good-
You don't want to deal with Mary Ellen.
Okay. Next up, again, before we start our regular scheduled meeting is Priscilla. Mark Schuster.
I did speak with,
Just want to, hold on, Mark, before we do, I just want to point out to council that we do have on page 11 and 12 of your 13 of your handout. On Mr. Schuster, if you can remember, many months ago, we contracted with E-Collect Turnkey to take a look at what lost revenue we may not be receiving because of delinquent landlords and their fees, as well as perhaps the lost earned income tax from tenants of those landlords. And we contracted with Mark to take a look at that. We just recently got the full database from Jordan, as well as from the county treasurer, for Mark to begin doing some initial analysis. And I've asked Mark to come here just to give us an update of where we are in that process.
thank you, sir. I did speak with Mr. Callen a little bit earlier today, and he asked that I limit my remarks to 1 hour.
Take your time.
No, I was able to, last month, we did get the file finally from Jordan Tax Service, and it did have both sets of the local and the parent address. It's real important that you have who owns the property, in case you need to get a hold of them, or in case, the tenants are moving in and out or whatever. So we had both of those. I was able to reformat all the data. It is now up in Turnkey. I have 4,914 primary properties. I'm going through right now, I did export the information from the code enforcement database here. We do have some discrepancy in number. It's somewhere between like 70 and 80. I'm not sure if it's vacant lots. I do know that there wasn't a completely clean export, meaning that there were some blank lines and some erroneous information. So we're talking with Missy to try to clean that up. But having the exact amount of primary properties is the most important thing. That's the foundation for everything else. Once we have that, then what we can do is start adding in all of the other, I call them units, so that we can come up with total units. These are the apartment buildings. You might have one property that's known by the county for, on 100 Main Street, it might be a 16-unit apartment building, so we will load those in secondarily. I did take all of the landlord information. I identified 630 rental properties. Some of them could be just single-family homes where it's acting as a duplex, and others are multi-unit. But what we want to get to is an exact count. Now, I'm coming at this from both sides at the same time to kind of speed things up. So I'm coming from the property and the landlord side, so we have all the apartments, and then also I'm coming at it from the earned income tax records, which we had received from Jordan. So just to give you an idea, we received the 2014, each of the 4 quarters. Because they have information that might go back for back taxes to like 2012, 2013, what I'm doing is I call it a grid build out. So from Q1 to Q2, we actually had, for the personal ID or social security number, we had a decrease of 58 people. Then we had an increase of 37, and then finally an increase of 86. What I need to do is compartmentalize all this data, put it in the correct year, in the correct quarter, turn it on and say, where's the missing holes? By having all of that earned income tax data, and it does have the name and address on it, now I'm gonna flow that into the apartments and into the homes. And we can identify what apartments or what homes do not have an active taxpayer right now. They may not have one because they're retired, unemployed, disabled, or whatever, but we're coming at it from both sides to get that information. And once we have that, it's just gonna be good. But I'll tell you what, perfect data is just something I'm very particular at. I want to come to you folks and have you be very confident that this is the exact number of properties, this is the exact number of units, these are the exact number of businesses, and here's how many earned income taxpayers that we have for each quarter. And if the number goes up, down, then you ask why. Megan had brought up, I wish you would have stayed, one of the things that I had done, and just to throw this out as well, I did serve on Mayor Peduto's transition team, and I focused on land banking. So I did come up with and since you have the property database anyway, I built it for land banking. And I had come up with a plan, a 5-year plan to get rid of all blighted properties, primarily because there was 37,000 properties just in the city of Pittsburgh, 37,000 out of the 180 that are blighted. And when you say we have to go out one at a time or whatever, I beg to differ. I think this needs to be a county or statewide, and just, whatever folks you need. Man, I got a big mouth. I will certainly help. When you talk about what is the cost of having 37,000 dilapidated properties on it, not paying anything, that's a big number. That's a real big number. So, I had proposed on a 5-year plan, 2 years of prevention where you're getting all the data, finding out if there's liens, who owns the title, 2 years of mitigation, and then finally 1 year of remediation, where if nothing's done in the first 4 years, you flatten it, you sell it, you do something else with it. But working in tandem, I'm just telling you, whatever you folks need with what you're gonna be doing with Megan, I'm using the county codes. Once we have these 4,914 primary properties, or get down to what that number is, I can use the classifications and say, what is it? It's retail, it's commercial, it's a 4-unit building, or it's in the stage of land banking. So just let me know what you need. But you know, we got the information, thank you for your patience. I know Bob kept pressing them and pressing them, we got it, and now we're moving at it from both ends. I don't want to take up too much more of your time if there's any questions. It's a lot of work, you know.
So we'll have 50 minutes.
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing some revenue come in once the database is done and you can
Yeah.
start doing your thing. It's,
Yeah, it's up there, it's live, so we have, Missy's a user, Bob's a user, and all the information that's up there can be accessed, it's web-based, so we're getting to that point.
all right, Mark, well, thanks for coming in and giving us an update.
All righty.
Thank you, Mark, for being in contact.
Okay, so at 7:27, I'd like to convene the regular scheduled meeting, Munhall Workshop meeting, Wednesday, May 13th, 2015. Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Falls, with allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I would like to have a moment of silence for the Inglis family. Harvey lost his daughter last week, and I'd like to have a moment of silence for Lori Inglis. Thank you. Thank you.
Councilman Ballas.
Here.
Councilman Shields. Here. Councilman voted in.
Here.
Councilman Brennan.
Here.
Councilman Foss.
Here.
Councilman Ingalls.
Here.
President Lloyd.
Present.
Quorum.
Okay, we can move into public speakers. Lawrence Yearwood, garbage bills. Please speak or forever hold your peace. Okay, Priscilla Sipos. Did I say that right, Sipos?
Cypress.
Cypress. Not here. We did the presentations before the meeting, so we can move into new business. Bob?
The new business, it's almost like a broken record. You will have on page 14, 15 through 18 of your handout, road conditions report. I don't need to tell council. A day doesn't go by where we don't get 5 or 6 phone calls regarding the conditions of our roads, whether it be for potholes or full repaving or reconstruction. We all know what the problem is. We certainly do not have much money in the 2015 budget. However, we do have a road conditions report that was done by Chester Engineers in 2014. And just to dovetail a little bit in advance, as you know, we're doing a 5-year capital improvement plan that will include roads for the next 5 years, but I still advocate that whoever's interested in council, that we all jump in on the van some Saturday morning and travel most of the roadways on Munhall. Take a look at this report, look at what the roadways are, and then for 2016 budget, really seriously consider how much money we need to allocate and for where road reconstruction or road paving needs to occur. I mentioned this for a number of meetings. We don't have that particular Saturday, but I would say relatively soon, within the next month.
How about the first one in June?
First weekend in June, Saturday.
Yeah, for some figure too.
I'm bad for that one.
Be good drive.
Majority. But if there's a 16 goes.
It'll be the sixth, Saturday, the sixth.
Saturday the 6th or the 13th.
13th I'm back.
I can do the 13th.
And that's still before our work session in June, so that might be good.
13?
13th?
13th.
If Mark was on 6 go though, but I can go to the
Arrange it, I think I'm gonna waste time first. I'll be here for, I should be.
9 a.m.?
Yeah, we could do 9 a.m., maybe donuts and coffee, and then jump in the van for a couple hours until we punch teach each other out and get out of
You
here.
need a driver.
It won't take long.
That'd be great.
But I
I
think
don't know what kind of coffee you
but I
got.
think you do need to eyeball what the.
Oh, yeah,
says.
there's definitely,
I think we need to do
definitely.
that. So we'll go ahead and do that on the 13th. I'll make those arrangements and we'll get the announcements out.
Okay, sounds
Okay,
good.
thank you.
Problem solved.
Definitely.
Thank you. Next item, 5-year capital improvement plan. As you know, we do have on page 19, 20 through 21, we do have an intern from the local government academy. It's $10 an hour, we're paying $5, the local government academy's paying $5. She's been on board, her name is Rachel Boss, as all of you know. She's been on board for about a week and a half now. She has given me a game plan, as you can see on your handout, pretty aggressive. And the deal is that by mid-July, we're gonna have a capital improvement plan for roads, sewers, building, anything that's owned by the municipality, projecting what is needed and what the cost is gonna be over the next 5 years. That would be the basis of our capital plan for 2016, and every year that plan will be updated every year so the 5 years is always rolling. So what we're gonna do on the 13th is I'm gonna certainly invite Rachel to accompany us on the road tour as well. So just wanna let you know that that's ongoing and it should be completed by mid-July.
Good job.
Excellent.
Next item, demolition 428 East 8th Avenue. You have on page 22 through 26. 27, this is old information, but we do have community development block grant dollars for year 40. We had a number of items on that demolition list, 3 of which have come off, Hardin Place, and 2 structures on East 8th Avenue that the Historical Society said we cannot tear down because of some historical significance. We do have a structure on Margaret, one on Homestead Duquesne Road, and another one that we had positioned at 428 East 8th. It was on and taken off. We have the money to tear it down, and the issue is, should we indeed tear it down? That's the old Amoco transmission facility in East 8th Avenue. Time is of the essence. We have all the legal clearances done, that was done months ago.
This is the building that had the fence on the sidewalk?
Yes. The one that the roof caved in.
Right.
So, the contract is actually with the COG to do it on our behalf. I have to get information over to the COG to go ahead and have them bid. We've been in contact with the solicitor, we have all the clearances. The only item now is, do we or do we not demolish 428 East 8th Avenue?
How many lots are there? Is it one lot or is it
One.
it's just one lot?
It's one, the whole
property, one parcel.
I thought we said we wanted to do that before.
We did, but then it was taken off.
We took it off to try to see if there was an interested buyer. I think maybe what we have is a disinterested seller. I don't know.
We gave that guy a break. He said he was trying to sell it,
Right,
and we said, okay,
Yeah.
do your stuff, and then nothing, nothing ever came back.
He was asking a lot, I mean, he was asking a pretty high
Came in
price
as
for it.
attorney here.
remember that, I remember he came and sat with his attorney here too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And we went and discussed something, and
This
before
is
I
the one
said
with the
no.
collapsed
What's your
roof.
year again now that's been brought up?
This is the one with the collapsed roof.
Yes.
He's also asked to remove the fire loads from inside and underneath that roof, and to my knowledge, that's never been removed, the cars, the tires, all that stuff.
Yes.
That was part of the agreement
Yeah.
that council had with him for leaving the building, because it's a huge fire hazard.
What happens?
And the question is, on the demolition, are we gonna be responsible to get that junk out of there? Or is that?
Take everything out of there.
Well, I don't know, because those cars, there's a problem, is there not, Pat, with cars, if there's titles, if there's not titles, you have to have a salver take them out of there.
If
Demolition,
they're demolished, I mean, salvage or Mac would take them out of there, Mac has a salvage license.
He'd part him out,
He'll
right?
smash
You know
them
what,
up.
I believe the owner of that has a salvage license.
I don't think he does, that's his problem.
He probably wants one.
Right,
He
that's
doesn't
why
wanna
he
let
can't
that go, right?
dispose of vehicles that he doesn't have title to.
Mac has a salvage license, Mac can do that.
What happens to the property once it's knocked down?
Well, it still remains in the ownership of the private owner, but there's a lien against the property for the cost of demolition, plus back taxes or whatever else.
And
It's just
the bad part of that is that the back wall of that building is basically serves as a retaining wall to hold the alley up, and it's gonna have to remain there.
It could be part of the spec.
And isn't part of one of the walls a firewall going to the adjacent building?
No, it's a separate wall. There's two walls. There's not a party
That
wall.
Parapet wall was the one that fell. That was the only one. Yeah, it's two separate walls.
Two separate walls.
Well,
It shares a wall with somebody, doesn't it?
That's what I,
No, I think they're just going up against each other.
if,
From what you remember?
There are openings between we had to go in and they had to put up fire stopping between the buildings when it came
We
down.
let him open that business next door.
That was part of the agreement we made to turn the power back on to the block.
The other skinhead complained.
Because I gave the order to shut the power off to the block as the building was moving. And Duquesne Light wouldn't turn the power back on until I said it was okay. And I would not say it was okay, because we didn't have an engineering report that says it was safe to do that. So part of that was Boomer went down there and the borough engineer went down there and they had to put up appropriate fire barriers in the building next door, which is, I forget what the name of the structure is, I forget it. The outer skin, and I was told they did that. Now, I'm not the inspecting party, that would be Boomer, so that's where we are with that, so. And then once I was told they did that, I called Duquesne Light and said, go ahead, turn the power back.
well, I have another question to add to this dilemma. If we tear the building down, does the ambulance, the abandoned, flat-tired ambulance stay on the lot next door?
whose is it?
Whose do you think?
I don't know.
I don't know, I'm asking whose is it? Would it, I mean,
Do you know whose it is?
I believe it's, yeah, I think I do.
You don't want me to tell you?
Is there a reason? I just, for the record, the day after my registration ran out on my car, I got cited in my driveway, and I had to have my car towed. But that thing hasn't been registered or had a license on it or a sticker for over a year, and it still sits there.
Dave handles the private property abandoned vehicles. We handle the ones that are on the street, he handles the ones that are in driveways off the street.
So does he answer to you now, Bob? So when he answered to you, what was the answer?
It was, I don't know if it was brought up.
Oh, it was brought up.
They took mine.
Now I'm bringing it up again
Like I said,
for about the
Dave's not
fifth
here.
time.
Dave's not here, you have to talk to him, he handles that.
Okay.
So let me ask you
Can I
another
comment
question
on
then. Once we knock the building down, are there back taxes owed on the property?
Yes.
So I think what we should do is if we knock the building down, we should immediately call this girl up and have it put on sheriff's sale and sold and put back onto the tax rolls. For someone to buy it and put a business in on the avenue.
That's Eighth Avenue.
That should be the plan.
Good idea.
So if we're gonna do that, I think we need to have a consensus that that's what we wanna do.
It's just like you tear down a house, you tore down a house on 12th Avenue. You tore the house down, but the original owner still owns the property.
Well, we're gonna sheriff sale the guy, right away. Either way, or else I'm not gonna vote for you.
You gotta do it right away.
Right then, right now,
That quick and fast.
let's do it. If we're gonna do it, let's have a plan. Let's sheriff sale the property right after it's knocked down.
why can't we
Someone-
share sell it before it's knocked
You
down?
could, but who's gonna buy it?
We don't wanna own a property to have to spend private, or to spend tax dollars on.
Someone
We don't wanna own it.
can
Somebody
go
might
in
buy it.
there and someone will buy that lot there.
I mean, but I think it's worth more down than it is up.
Yeah,
And you don't have to tear the building down, it's worth more down.
I agree with
What
that.
we have is that we're using the CDBG dollars to tear it down, it's not our money.
right,
I mean, it's our money, but it's federal money, it's not our tax money. to do
Right.
that. And the time is ticking on that,
let's do it.
so from what I'm hearing, I don't know if we need a motion on that, since it was on the initial list anyway.
I'll make the motion.
Contract next week, COG.
Next week, we can do it.
This is a voting meeting.
I don't know if we need to do that, because it's already in the, on the contract.
advertised meeting.
Yeah, we can vote today.
You can vote right now on
You didn't advertise it as a.
We didn't vote, it's not advertised a voting meeting, we never vote a workshop since I've been here.
Let me just clarify this. 2 years ago, an application was submitted from Munhall Borough to the COG, to Allegheny County for federal community development block grant dollars, specifically for demolition. And I think it was like $40,000 or $50,000 that was allocated to us. Within that application, 428 East 8th Avenue was listed along with 4 or 5 other properties. So that was already in the contract, that was already agreed to by council at that time by resolution. So I don't know if we need any formal motion to actually do that since it's already been done. The issue is that we informally in the past took it off because we thought that there was a buyer for it and there is not. So I don't think we need to reenact what was already done.
Good.
Tear down.
Is he paying his tax on it right now?
Next item is backhoe front loader repair update. Page 28, 29, and 30, if you can recall, Mr. Bicey brought up to us a couple months ago that our current front loader backhoe, which I believe is vintage 2004, Bob, we've been missing a date or two, 2004, has some issues and problems. To purchase a brand new one was roughly $70,000. So on page 30, Mr. Brennan brought up what would be the cost to repair the existing one, to see how much life we could get out of that before we buy another one. On page 29, you have an estimate of $29,603 to invest in the 2004 model to perhaps get another year or two life out of that, as opposed to buying another one at roughly $70,000. We did not budget for a brand new backhoe for 2015. Previous discussion was that if we were to buy a new one, perhaps maybe we do that at mid-year, work out a potential 3 or 4 lease agreement with some type of a leasing company with the first payment not paid for 2016. We don't know that yet, we haven't applied for that, of course, but the issue is, do we repair what we have now, or do we skirt along and perhaps position to buy a new one?
Will that one last till the end of the year without doing nothing to it?
If they don't use it too much,
it. It might.
you're taking it, you're rolling it.
It's an estimate.
Definitely wrong.
It could.
Right. I just want to let you all know, I did go back and look at the back personally, and went back and talked to Scott back there, and he showed me what he's done on it, and he looked at it with me, and I understand that it does need work, and I'm not disputing that. This is something that we need to see, though. We need to see some representation from someone who works on these as to what the costs are going to be. I don't object to looking at pricing and having someone tell us what it needs. What I objected to was the way it was presented to us without any facts, without anyone looking at the machinery back there. And obviously the numbers are what they are. You know, they're estimates. Will it last till next year? We don't know if it'll last till next year or not. I mean, it's a piece of machinery. That's like saying that Ford truck I got out there, that transmission's gonna be good for 2 years. No one knows.
It's a Ford, probably not.
But I gotta tell you, in talking with Scott back there, and, we talked about several things that are going on back there, and obviously the salt usage back there is really a deterrent on the machinery, so it's gonna cause a lot of rusting. I think in the future, what we need to look at is getting another piece of machinery back there as well. If it's not a big backhoe, it could be a smaller, a
I
smaller
probably always need a
loader,
front loader myself.
or a bobcat of some sort. something that could be used in conjunction with what we have back there. And that would save wear and tear on our major machinery. Plus, it could be, if we had a Bobcat, we could do a lot of our own stuff with a Bobcat as well. They could sweep streets with it, they could do a lot of final cleanup on stuff.
Well, with the new field coming up, I don't know how the equipment's gonna be to maintain that field with a brush.
A special piece of
Equipment for the front of, it may be
I think
in
it's
conjunction with the
brush.
front of a Bobcat also, I don't know what kind of.
Yeah, they're attachments, they attach on.
I don't know if that's gonna be a Bobcat or not, for the maintenance of the new
Yeah,
turf.
but you can't load salt trucks with a Bobcat.
No,
Take you 3 days
Yeah.
to load one
You
truck.
you
can't.
wouldn't even make
You
it.
can't use a Bobcat.
Articulated loader.
Dump.
Guys,
But
they
they,
can load a dump truck with a Bobcat.
I didn't say they couldn't.
Right. If
Take
it
a walk.
need- if that truck, even if they get a new one, if a new one breaks back there, what are we gonna do? If you buy a new tractor,
You can
and it
always,
sits back there and it breaks, what are you gonna do?
well, you can always rent a piece of equipment if you have to.
Get it fixed. You're gonna be down.
Why don't you charge the other people that you're using that for to put the salt in the truck?
We could. But I just wanted to bring that up. Scott and I did talk about it, and I know the city last year, they auctioned off articulated front loaders. They were dirt cheap. We could have bought one for $5,000, less than $5,000. So,
Three
so
times as
it's,
fast to load a truck with a loader versus a backhoe.
well, I know that, but our options are endless. But I wanted to bring that out there, that if we had another machine back there, it might save on the backhoe.
Are you saying, instead of buying another backhoe, maybe another piece of machinery that would be more versatile than that one?
I'm not saying that at all.
You wanna buy a Bobcat in conjunction with?
Absolutely. Okay?
Okay, well, I think
First off, we're gonna have to decide what we're gonna do with this piece of equipment.
the equipment, you said we didn't have a legitimate estimate. Now we have somewhat of a legitimate estimate from a very legitimate vendor that services everybody around.
Right.
And when the snow flies, we better have a piece of equipment that we can load salt trucks with. And, you know, I think it makes sense at this point, rather than putting potentially 30 grand here, or more, if they run
That's
into other issues.
like it's like the minimum,
Yeah,
That's an estimate.
so
minimum estimate.
we do what the preponderance was after we got a solid estimate, which we'll just assume this is somewhat solid. Let's order a new piece of equipment come July or August, so that we have it in December. The lease can start, you know, in 16 for the first payment. I don't really think we have any option. And then, if our finances get together, then Rick, I think your suggestion is well taken, that we get another piece of equipment, so that we're not constantly pounding that machine.
Our second conversation, part of the conversation was, what if we kept that machinery back there, that backhoe back there, and got them?
Well,
What are the numbers gonna
we
be?
are, it'll sit there.
The 70,000 includes a trade-in.
Right.
Of the existing.
Right, it does. So that, I wanted to throw that into the mix too. You know, what if we kept that backup?
Did they mention, by any chance, is the board getting fixed?
We're getting fixed.
They're giving you an estimate of $30,000 to make all repairs.
Yeah, but we're on
That's
that.
minimum.
Well, we're getting 15,000 as a trade.
Right. Is it worth it?
He uses it all the time, he thinks it's junk, so.
Exactly.
We gotta take,
That's
we gotta defer to the guy who works with it.
I don't see, I don't know what it looks like.
It's junk.
Not to belabor it or to add a monkey wrench, but I understand that we also house, load road salt.
Yes.
That's no valid.
In the school district.
And we charge them nothing.
I just got done saying.
Perhaps we may need to charge them something, at least a per hour or a per ton cost, to recoup some of our costs.
Add something to.
That's a different issue, but I think, you know,
The person who's running the machine.
That's part of the same issue, really.
it is. I think we need to have a policy that we go forward.
Well, yeah, I mean,
We'd have to
just
get
the
him
capital
one step.
investment alone that they don't have to spend.
Right.
I mean, it's out of control with the amount of money we spend to support neighboring municipalities with nothing in return.
Still say we're housing their soul for free, but let's have a charge, say, the charge is for us going to work, and we do have to work, you know.
It would be minimal in the scope of the total cost, but at least it justifies something.
I'm sure they would charge us if it was the other way around.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
Okay.
So I don't know what I'm hearing here. I think I'm hearing, we don't need to make a decision tonight, but I think we're hearing.
My opinion is we got the 70,000, the new one, deferred payment hopefully January 2016.
We could shop around, get the cost and see what the interest is and see
So-
if we get.
Finance.
Get it on the agenda by June or July,
Yeah.
and then we'll vote on it.
How this works.
We're gonna defer to July.
We're not gonna order one anyhow till July.
Well, we have to get
Well,
some bids.
I got a question, if we order one, how long would it take to,
How long they usually take this?
They told me if they have one in stock, they have it in a week.
in a week?
If they don't have one in stock, it'll be 6 months.
If you're talking 2016 model, you're talking 6 months.
We
You're
need
talking
that.
You order
2015.
July, you ain't getting it till January
They
sixteenth.
need that for us in July.
No, later than.
June, yeah. We'll shop it around, see what kind of rates we can get, see if we can defer the first payment until 2016.
Well, this is the only bid we're gonna take?
No,
This is a CoStarz, this is a CoStarz bid.
Right. If it's co-stars, that's a state price, we don't have to say that, but if we want to, we still
Yeah,
can.
it says right here, discount pursuant to state of PA CoStar, so that's the price.
Okay, thank you. Next item, number 5, Main Street cameras, discussed to repair. We brought this up at the last meeting. You have on page 31, 33, 34. We were dealing almost a year ago with Z-Tech. It gave us a preliminary cost of roughly $6,600 to correct the errors and to get the cameras that are on Main Street Business District up and running. Right now, they are not functional. I asked Z-Tech to go out and take another look at that and give me another cost based on the discussion at the last meeting. On page 34, new cost is roughly $5,497.50. There is an asterisk on the bottom one because the pole in front of the fire department on the Main Street, there's no juice there. We don't know why. Duquesne Light may need to be called in to see what the problem is, and we may need to do some type of other engineering and to get another conduit in there to allow the power to operate all the cameras. Chief?
I talked to Bob yesterday, he told me, it looks like they replaced the pole up there, and it may have interrupted the underground connection. I live in here fixing the camera for us yesterday.
We don't know what that cost is. It's gonna be greater than 5,400, so we might be back up to the 6,600 or more. The issue is that the cameras are non-functioning. There was an investment by the business community as well as the government to get them up and running. They've been down for, been here for over a year now, so longer than a year. And they do need to be fixed. And would like to at least put this on the next meeting to authorize to go ahead and fix that.
Well, what's making them not work?
They're junk.
They were not properly
Not properly
installed,
Who,
properly,
who put them in?
some firm.
Company Texas.
Company from Texas.
There's no
Oh,
warranty
yeah,
on it.
business.
Low bidder.
There's no warranty, there's no guarantee, it's all expired.
Can I ask you if this has anything to do with the cameras that aren't working at the waterfront?
No.
Different stuff.
We had a meeting yesterday with district attorney.
That's what I wanted to ask you about, that's while we're talking about cameras. What transpired with that meeting?
Bob was there as well. We're moving forward, getting them back online. The guy who services the cameras was paying the internet connection fee out of his pocket for, did he say, about 18 months? He was not getting reimbursed from that, he quit paying. We were never presented with a maintenance agreement. He claims he sent it to the boroughs or to the waterfront itself. We've never seen it until yesterday. Roughly 4,700 of,
It would be about 4,400 for the Waterfront Association, and then roughly 16,000 split among 3 municipalities for their costs.
the
Roughly
waterfront is
47.
claiming that they'll pay the maintenance fee every year. The 4,700 apiece is to upgrade the existing equipment, getting it back online, installing some software in our computers in our cars, stuff like that.
That's kind of the deal, I think, Mr. Brendan, that the supplier or the vendor's already been identified by Allegheny County District Attorney's Office. It's a matter of who and how we're going to spread the costs and how we're going to pay it. And at that meeting, it may go through the TIF committee. I'm not sure yet, but
There's some license plate recognition cameras that are already in place down there, we want to expand on that to include all the ingress and egress points. I have to talk to a guy tomorrow to schedule some training for our guys on that, and same with Homestead and West Homestead as well.
Good.
Chief, how many cameras are there total down there?
7 or 8. But the license plate readers are only on like Hammond and Waterfront.
Okay.
We want to put them on the ranch, we want to put them at the flyover, at the crossing. We'll catch everything at the crossing, but like say, what our discussion was the steak and shake shooting. We believe those people entered and exited through the flyover and never crossed that, into that zone where we could have done a license plate reading.
that's separate from the Main Street, and hopefully at the next meeting I can put something on the table, and hopefully the third graders will agree, and
One more thing on the cameras, I think we're gonna start thinking about is making sure we have cameras down there at Westfield, Wainwright Park, when that is finished.
that would be a separate issue.
Absolutely, it's a separate issue, but I think we need to start, we need to have that camera well.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's too expensive a project to have.
Maybe we can talk to the,
Lights or anything on there.
maybe Joe can talk to Joe Dugan already, tie them into, the project.
Yeah, that would be nice. Good.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same.
It's not on the agenda, I'm not sure that the Allegheny County Conservation District gave us their permit, but who cares, we're proceeding. The next item I have is Duquesne Light, LED, street lights, second round. So if you can recall, last year we put in about 30 LED lights, 10 or 12 by 10th Avenue between McClure and Martha. By the library, we put 10, I believe, in video, and I think we had about 10 in Cambria. Duquesne Light has a second round of LED lights totaling 1,500 lights. Street lights, LED street lights between Beaver and Allegheny County, first come, first served. It's roughly $109 per light. I'd like to take advantage of that again, but I wouldn't know what streets we would want to do, so I've asked council to give it some thought and feedback to me, so I can go ahead and, assuming we want to do this. We do have it in the budget.
How much do we have in the budget?
We don't have a set amount, it's within our street light total cost. But, you know, it's $1,009 for 10 lights.
Yeah.
And the paybacks is within 24 months as far as the energy usage. So,
They have to be done.
they have to be 10 or more contiguous. On the street or several streets, so. You may wanna take a look at that and get back to me the next week or two. Because they're gonna move fast.
Yeah,
We're talking about lights, I I gotta bring up the subject of the pathway from, I guess it's Bondera Street down to Ravine Street. The lights were removed. I've had residents ask about the lights, why they were removed. The pathway is dark there in the fall and winter. And the kids walk up and down there from school, up and down that pathway. And I brought it up several months ago. Nothing's been done or talked about it.
They said the pole was removed, that's why they took the light.
Well, the house was removed.
There was
The
a
house
fire.
caught on fire, and now there's no house there, so they came and took the light away, so. I don't know if we're ever gonna put a light back down in there, or lights back down in there, but I need to bring that up because it was mentioned to me, and it is a dark pathway, and I'm sure the chief of police knows that the kids are walking up and down that
There's a
pathway.
crossing guard there. We have a crossing guard there.
And the crossing guard's one of the people that said,
Right.
in the morning, it's so dark there,
In the winter.
that them kids are walking up there, and it's so dark at certain times of the year. He's one of the guys that said to me about this, hey, it's dark here, they took that light out, so I just wanna bring that up.
The general cost of Duquesne Light to engineer and to reinstall lights, roughly $12,000 to $15,000. I mean, I'll look into it and check that out further.
I thought there was, if we wanted lights, I thought there was no cost to that. They would put a light up and we would just be responsible for the bills.
I don't know that in fact, since they took it away to put one back up there. I'm just telling you what the cost will be, whether they forgive that or just waive that.
I don't know either.
We'll look into it.
I wanted to bring it up, though.
Even if they take it out,
Well, I don't know why they took it out.
that's what
I
I'm.
think that's what,
The house was gone.
Pat, I think that's what happened on, when we put them extra lights on 14th Avenue. I don't think they charged us to put them up.
I'll check it out.
There's still a substantial structure there too. That's,
It's still something.
that needs to be dealt with eventually.
Demo, that needs to go on the demo list.
Absolutely.
Check it out further. Okay, next item, number 5, which should be number 7, Park and Rec Board ordinance and recommended board members, discussion and motion to act. Again, I'm suggesting that we do make some action this evening as opposed to next week. You have on page 41,
We will withdraw.
42. yeah.
Who withdrew?
Yeah, I'll give you an update on that. We did have 10 applicants that responded from advertisements in both the Daily News as well as the Valley Mirror for Munhall residents to be considered to be appointed to a 7-member board on the newly formed Park and Recreation Board. We did receive 10 applications for those 7 positions. You have on page 41, the ranking from the interviewing committee, which I believe were 5 or 6 councilmen at that time, plus myself. I did not have a vote or a ranking on this. But you can see on page 41 of the 10 applicants, we have listed them ranking the low number, which means that's number 1. We did have one applicant, number 5, that since that time has taken the name off the list.
Number 7, I think.
Number,
Number 5.
I think it was number 5.
I thought 7, Kim Farrer.
Who is it?
Kim Farrer.
Compares number 7 on mine.
She took her name off the list.
Was it number 7? Okay, I'm sorry. Took a name off the list. There is an issue with the person under number 5 that you can see noted there. Speaking with some of the members of council on the interviewing committee, there's been some discussion as that, well, why don't we appoint all the people, since they were all apparently well qualified. Everyone that applied did have a college education, each one had a strength that came to the table. Our ordinance that was adopted stated that we will have a board of 7. In order to change the number, we'd have to advertise to amend that ordinance for at least the next public meeting to increase it to a different number. Obviously, you would want an odd number, not an even number, like 9 or 11. So right now, with what we have, when the ordinance is 7, My recommendation would be, let's go ahead and appoint 7 people. And if council so decides to increase that, we could do that at a later date by amending the ordinance and doing that later. If we were to appoint tonight 7 people, we would have them in place at the June meeting, and then begin the process for them to at least be the oversight not only on Westfield, but also a multi-municipal comprehensive recreation plan, which we have pending funding for, as well as to provide input toward the capital improvement plan for our 9 or 10 different parklets or recreation spaces that we have. So that's kind of the issue that we have before us. Mr. Brennan did advance to someone else, which is on page 42. Not to say that other council persons could not, but if we entertain that, then we should re-advertise again for additional people. And that may be in addition to expanding from 7 to.
Was this someone who came in after the interviews?
Yes. Yes. I bring that to you because Mr. Brennan brought it to my attention, and I want to bring it to you.
Well, did I miss something? You went to 7, number 7, okay, we scratched. What happened with number 5? That's still.
Well, the number 5 is still there. I just wanted to mention to you that we did do a check on all the applicants as to their, as we stated in the advertisement, of good character and good standing, not identifying what that meant. We did have one applicant that was delinquent in sewage and garbage fees of better than $1,000. I have not approached that person because I didn't know which way council wanted to go. Whether we want to appoint and approach that person and have them make themselves whole with us, which would probably be unlikely. You do have grounds not to include that person, which means that 5's off and you go down to 9 if number 8 is now removed, so you're removing 2.
Yeah, you removed 5 and 7, right?
I was here for majority of the interviews, 8 out of the 10, and every one of them were good. I mean, no matter who we put on this board, we're not gonna put a loser on it.
Absolutely not.
You know, they're all good people. You know, the one you said does have a little bit of an issue with, you know, some stuff. But I mean, every one of them has some good strengths. And I think we ought to do the 7 right now, and then at the following meeting, put the rest of them on.
Well, that's how I would prefer that we do that, keep the
Start it.
timeline. And then
Yes.
if we amend the ordinance to add, we can do that.
That's my.
But are you still gonna stay with number 5? Even though what you said in there, you can't be,
I think we ought to approach that person and,
give them a chance?
Give her the opportunity to explain it.
Well, I have no problem with that, I just, you know,
Well,
Give them the opportunity to
then-
explain.
then she should not be one of the original
Them.
7. I think.
okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Because again, it
Fine.
throws the timeline off, you're trying to get this off the ground.
You wanna get 7 tonight?
Right.
That's fine with me. I mean,
well,
like I
if
said, anyone we
if
put on
do
here,
the
we're gonna
7
put good
tonight,
people on.
can we have it on the agenda for next week to
amend the ordinance.
amend the ordinance to add the rest of it?
I don't think so, because you gotta
It would
advertise.
take, you have to advertise that.
He
That's,
said it
The motion would be to advertise for that.
Well, whatever step we gotta take first.
We could
but we
advertise
do it
next week.
But we were trying to avoid next week because the kids are wanting to show, so.
Open up more people.
Well, that's
I mean,
something.
we can still do it.
I think that's something that has to be done.
Right now.
You're gonna have your 7 on by June.
Rob had a good question. You expanded
do we have to?
past the original, you advertise again for more people? You're just gonna stick with whoever you have now?
Because I would definitely want to take a couple that we didn't pick.
Stick with the ones you have now.
Because Mr. Brennan has someone who has a degree in Parks and Recreation.
Absolutely.
There are
That's why you only
appointments,
credits for
there are appointments by council, and these people are already in there. I wouldn't see why we would have to go back out.
No,
Now, our
we're talking about-
discussion would be, do we go to 9 or 11? Because 11, I mean, I wouldn't go over 11.
My experience with committees is the more people that are on the committee, the less effective it becomes.
Well, my experience here in this particular issue is we're gonna have more parks and more recreational people why would we turn any one of them away, first thing?
Because
We could advertise it 7, 9, or 11,
We could, we didn't do it. We didn't.
but we're gonna re-advertise it again. So when we do re-advertise it, we re-advertise it for 9 or 11, depending on applicant. Can you do that?
We do every book.
There you go. That way, if we get 11 people,
Just put an odd number, any odd, just an odd number of applicants.
The bigger the committee, the stronger the chair needs to be.
well,
I
that,
mean,
Well,
that's
the chair will be identified by the people.
by the people themselves.
the more people you get involved in this, the better it is for the town,
Sometimes,
Sometimes.
I think.
sometimes.
I
What's
think.
gonna happen though is, like I said a couple months ago, there's gonna be attrition.
Oh,
In a
people will
few
fall
years,
off.
they're gonna fall off. The more you have, the more you're gonna end up with at the end. So, you know, it works both ways.
And how are we
Just to-
how are we gonna appoint people then?
Well, the way it will be, according to the existing ordinance, are 5-year terms. But once the people are identified, then among themselves, they will pick straws. Who has 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 year. If someone gets the short straw and only serving for 1 year, that's not to say that council can't reappoint them for another term. But you have to have that staggered.
So all new people will be just appointed by council,
Oh, these people are being appointed.
but there won't be an interview process?
We've already done that.
Well, there is. There is.
Well, every year, I mean, we could advertise it if we wanted.
Every time we put someone on a committee, we advertise for applications.
So there will be an advertising
Oh,
process.
for new folks?
Right, that's what I'm asking.
That would be an ongoing thing.
Good.
Whether it's a zoning hearing board, planning, or whatever.
Great.
So will their term be up in January or June? Because we do appointments in January normally,
You
right?
have to make a
Is that a
January.
tough question, or is it?
Tough
We
question.
have to make a January.
Probably, I would even want to make it January, yes.
Let them decide.
Even though the year one would only serve 6 months.
I will
but-
assist them in drafting their own bylaws.
Mhm.
Will be identified at that
Somebody-
time.
If the person comes to the meetings and shows an interest, I'm
We'll
sure we
definitely put
want
it
to
back
reappoint
on.
them.
Absolutely.
Or if they make one meeting every year, that's a reason, maybe not, maybe that's, well, don't make.
Why can't
They make one meeting every year, we'll put it on the sewer film.
automatic
They gotta
for 5 years, and then start your process after 5 years?
Because you have to have a staggered term. You can't have people serve 5 years and then everybody's off and have
Not
a new.
everybody, start your eliminations.
That would be among the boards to do that when you draw
You
the
need to
straws.
start it right away, Rich, because some, people are gonna fall off all of a sudden.
Well, the issue here now is, from my point of view, an administrative point of view, I'd like to take some action tonight, rather than wait till next week, because we may have to have 7 different motions.
You want to vote tonight?
I didn't think we were allowed to vote tonight.
It's a public meeting, we could.
We didn't list it as a voting meeting.
No.
We've never voted at workshops. We just
The
don't.
question is, do we want to do it next week with the 3rd grade? I don't have a problem with that, but it's gonna be a long meeting.
No, but what we
Just
can't
lump it
decide,
together
what we
as one
can't
vote.
decide tonight is to put number 1, number 2, number
Right.
3, number 4, number 6,
We can decide what we're
number
gonna
8,
do.
and number 9 on there. And then we just read the names off and we're done.
We're done, that's it.
In no apparent order.
Right.
Right, make the decision tonight and just vote on it next week, boom, so.
These 7 people or
No, we vote
The
tonight,
initial
might start something.
members of the
Start
rec board.
Presidents and something,
No,
I don't see why you couldn't vote tonight. There's enough of us here to vote. I don't know
It's
why.
not an
you couldn't.
advertised voting meeting, man.
It's an advertising
Sunshine
meeting.
law.
It's not a
But it's
voting
not-
meeting. We only have one voting meeting a month. That's next week, the regular business meeting. This is a workshop to work on next, that's just.
It's a sunshine law, you can't do it. It's not an advertisement.
Thank you, Mr.
No
Barker.
legislative, I mean, this is ridiculous, guys.
So I
Thank you,
hear,
Mr. Barker.
what I'm
Okay.
hearing is that for next week, we put on the action agenda to appoint 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 9.
Yes.
Done.
Those are the 7 people, and then,
Works for me.
if we want to, or wait till June, we can make a motion to advertise to expand the Park and Recreation Board from 7 to 9.
Could we make a motion for that night, next
We can
Wednesday?
make a motion next week, because I'm
We'll
going
do
to
it
the
next Wednesday?
To advertise.
Right.
Advertise,
Right.
to make it, to bring
So
it to
the
nine.
June meeting, we would actually amend the ordinance at that time for the new number.
New member.
Right.
The question is it number 9 or 11?
I say we do both.
I don't think we can do both.
Well, you got one or the other.
I would say
Either 9
You
people
can-
or 11
you
people.
can always have a committee that says it's a maximum of 11 members. Doesn't mean you have to appoint 11.
Okay, we can do that.
That's
A
good.
maximum of 11, I like how you put it. Maximum of 11.
Is someone going to,
Either way.
is someone going to approach number 5 to find out, you know, if they're still
We do like her, I mean, if.
like them?
Maybe if she just makes
Or
arrangements, if
yeah.
she just makes arrangements to take
Easy
care of that.
payment plan.
You're too slow on the draw, Chuck, consent 3 times.
You have to do everything.
Well, it should be a resident in good standing.
I would say eliminate it.
You would say what?
Just eliminate it.
You know, it's gonna happen after the first year.
I don't mean it's how it's advertised.
That's all we ever done.
You
Thank
got
you.
7 people and all that little bit of weed going on.
Okay, where are we? Number 6.
They'll all be fighting.
Just to
on
let you
it.
know,
Like these
information
720s, they can't
2014
make
general
it
fund
citizen.
audit. We did award it to Mark Kernley at $6,000. That actually started today. His team is announced today, so hopefully we have this thing wrapped up by the end of May, just to let you know. Another, just for you to know, information, number 7, early intervention analysis. That began this week. We did contract with Resource Development and Management for $54,000 to do a financial analysis as well as an operational analysis of all of our departments. We finally did get the final signed contract in with the state. It was better than a month ago. The first consultant was in yesterday to meet with Public Works and Refuse. Tomorrow, there's 2 consultants coming in to talk with administration as well as code enforcement. And next week, we do have a police consultant coming in to speak with the chief. And there'll be several other meetings that will be going on. And I anticipate that by July, August meeting, we'll have a preliminary presentation by RDM to tell us about what our emergency plan will be for the remainder of 2015 from a financial point of view, and a preliminary kind of snapshot of what we need to do to bridge the gap between revenues and expenditures in 2016 and beyond. That final plan should be in our hands by the end of September to coincide with the 2016 formulation of 2016 budget. And also, it's going to dovetail with our 5-year capital improvement plan as well. So that's just for your need to know. Number 8, Woodhill Park plaque. Councilman Falls asked me to put this on the agenda for discussion. This has to do with the plaque of the investment that was made, I guess, by the veterans on the flagpole, that there should be some designation to that, and we wanted some discussion and closure on the cost of putting together a plaque and installing the same.
I did go check out one at his place, it was AAA, AAA engraving. It's close to where I work at there in town, right across from the, Constant Energy Center. And I looked at plaques, and, of course, it's a little more because you have to get an outdoor plaque.
Right.
And the price range from $300 to $600.
Does that
Depending on
include,
the size.
does that include the mounting?
You know what, I think the mounting will be up there. I think we talked about that, Joe. We didn't talk to the Public Works yet, but maybe the Public Works could do the mounting for us.
They don't wanna know,
They give us the
can't put on the pole.
No, we're
No,
looking at,
no.
we're looking at the
Ready to get
guide
guide
rail.
rail.
We're looking at
Yeah.
the guide rail.
Right, yeah.
That's what they were.
Or a stone, you could have a stone set there like
But
that.
that's gonna be real low, and the guide rail's right there, unless you get a, you know,
Guide
a
rail's
high
right across
stone.
from
and-
it.
I'm just.
That's,
Yeah, I understand.
I
That would
understand.
be very, nice looking too, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would.
Not a bad idea.
I mean, I don't know much up with that.
Or you'd have to pour something, just form something, pour it.
I'm the invisible guy.
Form a-
Why don't you get
If
something
somebody
price-
draws
I
it,
can
I
get a
might be
price
able to
list
get
from
it
them,
done
I
out
can
of
get
a
a price
piece of
list,
stone,
and they can-
free,
you
no
know,
Let's
cost.
pick one out and-
You're not allowed to talk, sir.
Not to exceed 600.
We don't wanna go too slow, but right, I don't want a $300, honestly, I don't want a $300 and make it look cheap, you know. I do wanna buy a little one.
I'm making a contribution.
Are you acting out again?
No, I am. I'm not. No, what I'm saying is, not familiar with this, but if this is a little bronze plaque or
Yeah,
a small granite that I can get sandblasted, if somebody would show me what they want to do, I might be able to just get it done for nothing.
the stone itself.
Well, what they do, they just take a piece of limestone, or they take a piece of granite, and they just make a template, and then they sandblast it.
You know what?
I mean, that's a very simple process, and
Make them right on this machine.
I can get,
On McClure Street. I'll ask them.
well, no, they take a die cut of rubber when they do tombstones, and they stick it on there, pull the die, and they sandblast.
There's a guy right down behind my office.
Well, all I'm saying is, I could get it done for nothing, if you really, somebody give me the
Yeah,
artwork.
Jim, but when?
No, I wouldn't do it. I'm very good relationship with one of the major tombstone people. Okay, then spend $600.
No, we
I don't
just said
care.
when, how soon can you get it done?
As soon as I give the guy the artwork, I mean, I have probably a piece of stone.
Give us a date.
If you wanna use, what, like limestone or something?
That'd be
I'm not an
nice.
expert on it, but I just
That would
want
be very
something that
nice.
is, will hold up outdoors.
Well, typically like the military tombstones, they're limestone. That's what this building
I'm gonna
is.
put a motion on the next.
What is there, a couple names or something?
No, it's
what it.
Just who donated?
yes,
You know what I think we should do is put a motion for next week, that we not to exceed $600 for the purchase of the marker.
And if we can
Okay.
do something with Mr. Barker, where he can get us some details.
I can get it done faster than you can return my welder. You think?
I've been asking you to come and get that for 3 years.
Last person that uses it keeps it, right, Rich?
Yes, sir.
No storage charge?
Yeah,
All right.
I need it.
Next item I have on the agenda is the volunteer fire department number 3,
Who
building
made those?
disposition. You have page
I did.
48, 49 thereafter. We discussed
Where's my
this a
file?
bit in the executive session. The issue before us is, do we entertain to sell the building, or do we retain it for borough purposes, for discussion purposes?
Well, I think we discussed it in executive session.
Session,
I think our general consensus was that we keep it.
I think that was the consensus as well.
for that price.
Well, because we're losing
What was
storage
the
space
offer?
back here.
We need the storage.
We
for next year.
couldn't build,
Let's
that
get
would
it on
build
for
a
number
steel
3.
pole building
Pennies.
for $60,000.
And also our thought was to use it maybe in conjunction in the future with Parks and Rec.
Well, if you're gonna do storage, you gotta make sure Bob knows that he can't put that downstairs. We're gonna use that for like the Parks and Rec.
Yeah, you guys would use.
I think we should all go to the building and look at it ourselves.
We've been talking.
It's
about-
Saturday
Have a-
tour.
Have a discussion
We already
about
got one of
how we're
them.
gonna use it.
We'll do that on our road tour.
And we
Yeah.
talked
Road.
about using
I wanna
the senior
drive.
center, you know.
Didn't we, originally, when we started talking about this, that we wanted to get rid of the liability of that building and the cost of maintaining
We
it?
thought we were gonna get a lot more for it though.
Yeah, we thought.
How much
We
we
thought
want
we
for
were gonna
the
get a
vehicle?
price for it.
We'll get a Segway tour.
It's still sad as hell, Rich. I mean,
I'm
look at
just,
it
I'm
down
just
there.
bringing.
I think we need
Yeah,
it
and
for the
and
next year.
maintenance, but if we're gonna use it, what we were talking about was the fire company that was up there said, well, we have stuff in there. And what did they have in there? They had some desks and some file cabinets. So we were paying
They had a
for
lot more in it.
utilities.
Here,
They had a lot more in it. There was equipment, all sorts of shit.
Right.
There was a ton of
And where's
stuff.
that equipment now?
Oh, we moved it all down here.
Right.
Right through a lot of
So,
the
but
way.
the point is, if we're gonna make use of the building, then it's worth keeping. If we're not gonna make use of the building and not heat it and have water breaks and expenses, then we
Then we
don't
should
need.
sell it.
That's right. And so this,
But I think our intention, which at the rec meetings we had, we were discussing that and we thought that might be an ideal place for people to meet and do stuff
It
like
is.
do that. So I think it's a great
How about a
idea.
place for senior citizens to come and play cards?
Cards,
Afternoon.
the pool.
Well, you have to
Bunch
be
of
able to manage
drunken
it.
bums.
The problem is he manages.
the rec board's gonna have to figure that out.
Right, the rec board have an opportunity
You
there.
have your office.
You get the ball on the head.
The corner and just, we're not gonna sell
After you're
it.
done with these guys, you gotta go somewhere.
Start Friday night, go to Sunday. Okay, well, what I hear is that we're gonna reject that, the offer. And I will
At
get-
this time.
At this time, and we'll get back to it.
What was the
No
offer?
further action at this time.
What was the offer?
Next item, just for your
I'm not
know,
talking about
website redesign. That will be completed in June 17th. That will coincide with our meeting at that date. We will have a formal presentation in this room with the new website. We'll put a screen up. We'll have our webmistress here, plus a few of the people to explain it to us. And just to dovetail down to 12, next meeting, you guys have to come here and look pretty, because you're gonna have your portrait shots
You think
taken.
Mr. Brennan tonight, he's all ready to go.
I'm ready, so
You know, the
I need my
photographer
picture
didn't-
taken.
photographer didn't get the memo, so you have to come again next.
And I got my eye. Can we go back to the fire hall for
No.
one second?
No.
Are we going to take the real estate agreement away from McShane's and not have
Not
it listed?
necessarily.
Or do you wanna keep it listed?
No, I don't wanna keep it listed if we're gonna make plans to use it for recreation and.
So then we should inform them that we don't wanna have it listed for sale.
Right.
Thank you. Is that what we all can do?
Good point, Mr. Brennan.
Thank you.
One more thing on
The
recreation.
agreement we signed was for
Smile.
120 days,
As long as you got it listed.
but we decided to take it off the block. I don't think there's any repercussions on it.
I don't think so either.
One more thing on recreation, if we are bringing that up to 11, I still don't think it would be a bad idea to put a member of the rec board from council on there as the 11th member.
Like the chair of the recreation committee?
Chair.
That's, like I said before.
We
Right.
talked about
Keep
that.
They're
10
ruining
people.
it already.
If there's a tie,
And then, I
They're
don't know,
ruining
doesn't have to
it
be
already.
Rick Harvey,
Got
myself,
induce
or
a
any member of the
politician.
rec board can be the 11th.
right,
No, Bob, I thought you designed this so that there wouldn't be a member
What?
of council on that board.
It really doesn't matter.
not on the board, Dan, not on the board. That if you have 10 people, all right, and the vote comes out 5-5,
Okay.
We can't have to.
No, maybe if there's only 10 to show up at that meeting, is that what you mean, Harv? You
If
want
you
one
only
is
put
that
some
some?
more, we put 10 on there.
you don't wanna put 10 on.
You need to have that, you have to have an odd number.
I understand.
But whoever shows up to quorum is gonna be the 75% of the 10.
But
Or
can
either
the,
the 11 or the 9.
You can have ties.
can a rec board member be a tiebreaker vote?
No, I don't think if you're not a member of the committee, and it's only a recommending board. I don't think they're gonna have big battles there.
They're already
All they do
working
is
for
recommend, we make
position,
all the final
right?
decisions.
You're right, you're right.
Since
Can council be a tiebreaker?
As we just said.
We're gonna do, we make all
They
the
just said
decisions.
You
no.
don't need it, you don't break all the ties now.
Your
Right.
final.
Let it roll.
Right.
Okay, flyover guide rail, you do have somewhere in the back of your packet that it's been repaired for well over a month now. The total cost is better than $8,000 that Allegheny County absorbed.
It's still in one piece.
It was as of last week, I don't know. Anyhow, it was estimated about 12,000, the county repaired it for 8. At their cost, they didn't have to do that, but they did. So that's just for your needs to know.
That came out of the meeting that we had downtown, Bob, just so everyone knows that. The mayor and, there were several of us that attended that meeting, and we pushed that through there, so that was,
And the executive Fitzgerald said they did.
right, so that's where that came from. So we got something out of that meeting.
Compliments of Mr. Fitzgerald.
Mr. Brennan, you're gonna dress for your photo shoot on May 20th then?
He's always the best dressed.
29th. I think.
Absolutely.
We're gonna start at 5:30, we're gonna start at 5:30 here in this room, probably the flag as a backdrop, and that's gonna be the portrait shots of everyone, for the website. So come at your Sundays.
Planning commission?
When is that?
Next meeting.
Next meeting, 5:30.
I built
So they
those.
do a family portrait too, and have a
We can do that
group
too.
together.
Yeah,
Absolutely, we should.
I think see you since next to each other.
I always thought every new council, we should have, a photograph, new council every 2 years.
I don't wanna bring it up.
For history.
For the website too.
Well, for history, it's about
Anything else?
every year.
Hold on, hold on.
You got time for shits and giggles, you got time
Hold
for
on, we
me.
got Harvey wants the floor for a minute.
I just, I wanna bring up, Eddie, I wanna ask you, I see the fire pump by, Franklin, Homestead Duquesne Road.
Yes, sir.
They took it out of it, right?
They did take one out, but they put a new one in.
Out there.
The hydrant was on the playground side of Franklin Street, and they put a new one in on the other side of Franklin Street, tagged on Homestead Duquesne Road.
Right,
Was
The other one had a bag on it.
yeah, it's right up above there.
Also on hydrants, one out front, which it's been out of service for over a year,
Right.
in front of the Borough building here, that one also was recently reinstalled.
All right, thanks.
Oh, yeah, as far as I know, they're in service. I don't
And
know.
Rob, I don't know, if they contacted you, but, I got a couple of phone calls from Phil Palmer.
We contacted Joe.
Yeah.
Most of the kids he said are wearing West Mifflin sweatshirts, language is pretty bad, and they throw garbage all over the place. I don't know, you got cans there, I mean, they just don't.
Very good.
Is this Troutman or is it
Woodhill.
Woodhill.
It's always been a problem.
Yeah. They just don't want us to play basketball.
No, it's just.
The noise echoes, I live there.
I
The
don't think-
noise echoes in that whole valley at night, so when people are obnoxious, the neighborhood gets upset. And I can remember years ago with the girls softball, it was just something we were,
Well, that's what they said, I was at the softball game, a couple of people, parents in the stands said,
I
well,
think people,
kids swearing.
they do, they're just,
I just thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah, it's the mess they're making too,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm on the committee with you, but that's your chair.
Right.
We gotta sit down and talk with somebody or
We
do
do
something.
need to talk with them, we can, you know, set up a meeting. When we do a rec
Shoot a
meeting, our
couple.
first rec meeting will be June, second.
But who do we talk to if there are kids from Westville?
doesn't matter, it's our
I don't
park.
know.
Don't you
I
think?
mean-
If it's our park, they have
I
to
understand it's
play
our
by our
But,
rules.
I mean,
that's
I
all.
understand, but who do we talk to do it?
The only thing that.
We're the ones that should set the
I
rules.
think we need is, I mean, we need a little enforcement, the chief, ask the chief to have a car go down there at four, and softball's
Go
closed.
there as often as possible during their shift, they go there.
Okay.
And, no, I can't say we're getting a lot of calls from them.
No, I'm just
I
telling you
think
what,
every report that comes in, I'm telling you that we don't get very, we haven't this year anyway.
Phil-
A lot of calls.
Phil hasn't called the police per se to just people hearing the language, so they don't fear they're calling the police for that. And the garbage when they leave. They're not gonna call the police for that.
Phil has my cell phone number, he's used it a million
Oh,
times.
I understand. He got mine too, just the idea. I mean, we got cans there for the kids to put the stuff in. And they don't care, they just throw it all over.
I got a hamper in my kid's bedroom, he will not be able to throw it in there either.
On that comment, take
Love
this
eat
one
dinner
time
at their house.
Hey Harvey, I can tell you Troutman, just the days I'm up there, the police are up there, they get out of their vehicle and they walk through and that does a lot.
They do the same up
Yeah.
there, it's just,
They do a very good job of policing up there.
I have a suggestion on the garbage.
I think cameras up at the park would be
I
good.
think both
There
places
we
would be
go.
great.
We need to complicate things eventually.
I would suggest the garbage cans, we paint like they're, no, that we paint them like that they're,
Campers?
nets for basketball, or shoes.
Well,
That
that's
way
what it
they'll
looked like,
put
they
'em in.
missed those.
They did that to Kane, they cleaned it up.
Kennywood had a great idea when they had that.
Lion.
It's a vacuum.
You know what, kids used to run up and look for stuff.
I run all over the park.
In there.
As a kid, I'd run everywhere.
I didn't.
Well, if it's without objection, I'd like to adjourn the meeting. Is there objection?
No.
Meeting's over. Mr. Parker, what's up?
No, I just have, I'm new to a caucus. I didn't know there was no comments on the agenda. But I just did, and these are kind of important. You mentioned about the ambulance that still says Munhall on it. Most companies, when they get rid of vehicles, they immediately de-identify it. Because when people go by there, what do they see?
Munhall.
Munhall.
Right.
And I don't know, and I know that's an independent nonprofit that is designated provider for the borough of Munhall, and I think somebody should address that immediately, because that's what people
I'm
say.
voluntarily cleaning up that lot and planting grass.
I know you
I'm trying
are.
to make it look nice.
And
And
I
I'm
have
thinking
a-
about getting some brackets to hang some flower baskets off it.
All you had to do was some patience and you would have got your bean. I just figured out that's what you're mad about. But I talked to the manager earlier on an important subject, and I didn't have a chance to get all my facts, which I do have a few. If nobody would object, I'd like to tell that story which I told you about the EMS. I
3
think-
minutes.
3 minutes. All it was, we were talking about EMS, and I told them an experience that I had. It happened March 2nd. It was terrible weather we had, bitter cold. I get a call from my son that he thinks Mr. Novotny fell. That's my neighbor. They're both in their 90s. I go running out. I'm thinking he fell out in the snow. Here, I get to the back door, he had fell in the house. They had called 911, and, you know, an ambulance was coming. Just like most of us think that ambulance would come from this building right here. After I made 3 calls. I watched the ambulance drive by 3 times, once by the crossroads, one's right down. I'm on the phone with the with 911. She goes, I don't know what's wrong. I can see it on the CAD, the house that we're talking about. The owner of the house gave him an address on Homestead Duquesne Road because his driveway is on Homestead Duquesne Road, but it's a Briley Lane address. Now, I only have two of the pieces of information so far, but I'm going to get the whole 911 call. It took almost 15 minutes for that ambulance to go from this building to Homestead Duquesne Road, a mile away. They had called Mr. Novotny back on his phone trying to get directions. I had the lady on 911, I called 3 times. I'm blinking the first thing I think of, because it is tough to see, that is blink the front porch light. And it wasn't life-threatening, but it was a terrible experience. And to think if it was life-threatening, what it would have been. Finally, an ambulance shows up. And I say to the girl, you know, the gentleman's upstairs. I kind of give a little bit of report because I stayed downstairs blinking the porch light while they kept driving back and forth across. That's the honest to
But
God
the house
truth.
does not face Homestead Duquesne Road, Jim.
What did I just say?
I know, but you have to really,
They gave Homestead Duquesne Road address,
Right.
that's where the driveway entrance.
Yeah, but I would.
911 says, I can see the house on my CAD system.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I would not
Chief,
know.
can you pull an address
I
up
would
on
not
your-
know that house
your-
was
your-
there.
on the police cars and see it? The ambulances have those?
What's
I
the
believe
I don't know
issue?
what
Huh?
What is the issue?
It took over 15 minutes, Bert.
Is it a-
Would you want
is
to
it
wait
a-
15
is it a
minutes for an
911?
ambulance to come an hour?
That's a
Aren't
special.
you worried about the quality of care in this time?
No, Jim, I'm not. You're
Okay,
exactly
well, it's
right.
obvious you
You're
want to
exactly-
argue with
you're
me.
exactly right.
I am just telling you
I'm
what
just-
happened.
Hey, Jim,
That's
excuse
all.
me.
I don't,
You aware of where the house sits? Pat?
yeah, it's
Would
the
you-
one with the white pillars.
Sits way back.
Sits behind Mr. Vettle's house.
No,
No.
that's
This house
my
sits-
neighbor's the one with the white, that's Mrs. McCracken.
This
who
house
used to have the
sits,
alarm.
this house sits at the very end of Homestead Duquesne Road. There's a blind driveway that comes up.
It's very
I would
hard to
never
see.
know there was a house back there unless you're sitting in Mr. Barker's yard.
That's
It's
correct.
the one with
sits
the
like-
pine trees up in the front, right?
Yeah, you
That's the
can't-
house I'm talking about.
But he physically gave a Homestead Duquesne Road address for that ambulance to go to, and his driveway's right there.
Right, I know. how-
My question is, who polices it? 15 minutes is, and I think it was longer than that.
I would tell you, and I've told you all this before, there's a delay.
No, this had nothing to do with
This isn't-
911.
Here's my question. It wasn't a
The girl
911 problem.
from, the girl
It was
from the ambulance,
problem.
when she gets her, I said, what took so long?
They got dispatched.
She was very rude. It was about 20 degrees outside. You know what I told him, you know, he was upstairs and I stayed down with Mrs. Novotny. Now, this happens.
So this wasn't a dispatch issue. This was the ambulance not being able to find.
That's why it took so
Well,
long.
you're not explaining yourself.
No, this has nothing to do with the
And what I'm telling you,
dispatch.
if you look at the CAD reports, what's the time from?
Well, I gotta get
call
that yet.
Till dispatch?
That was probably over half an hour.
No, I mean, from call, from.
Call to
answering
when they
the
were
phone
dispatched.
No,
To
I'm
send
telling
them
you.
dispatch.
I
I've
could
done it in a few
hardly
minutes
walk.
right there.
I ran from my house through the snow, and they had already called for the ambulance. And the ambulance come from the Borough building, I know for a fact. Now, once that ambulance got there, another one finally showed up on another call. And actually Darren Sherritt come, and I said, Darren, I thought they send the police, only if they're asked for. My question, why did that EMS? And they have all the technology in their ambulance,
I'm sure they have that same CAD that we have.
why did it take
Had longer
15
than
minutes
that.
is all I'm asking.
They
Why
didn't
don't
know
you
where
ask
they were
them?
going.
Yeah, but no, Joe, in the new systems, they got them right there in the vehicle.
It should, they have it. We have it. These guys-
And then,
No, that's
hold
what
it.
they called for.
I say, well, you're gonna need a
Next
chair,
Tuesday.
guys, because they got a spiral staircase.
Can I ask you something about,
Yeah, Bert.
about the address on Homestead Duquesne Road? You gave them a Homestead Duquesne address.
Mr. Novotny.
Yes, but is there a marker on Hillside New Canaan with that address on
Well,
it?
no, he gave him the two houses on each side of his driveway.
So they saw two different.
One was
addresses.
Tony Fetska.
Right, they didn't see.
They drove right by. I watched them, I remember looking at the porch light, they drove right by. I don't think they were looking that hard. Because we used to use a floodlight all the time, never saw a floodlight. All I'm saying is, it don't seem like they were really in there. And then I hear him talking to the ambulance driver. Well, they were calling him back, trying to find the house. And all along, they have a CAD system that tells you GPS, right where to go. All I'm asking is, who polices those houses? Is that what we want? Is that what we want in our borough? Ultimately, if there's a problem, I mean, if that's what we're gonna accept, then that's fine. I know 25 years ago it wouldn't have been accepted. Well, I'm not done with it. I just think it's fair. I'm very disappointed in some people have a lackluster attitude.
Sounds like you're